visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
You saying no, 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 but when it's really yes, 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 yes. You saying no, 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 but when it's really yes, 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 yes. You saying no, 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 but when it's really yes, 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 yes. You saying no, 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 but when it's really yes, 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 yes.
All right, happy Tuesday. We're coming in with a vibe. Destiny's Child, the original No, 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 not the remix, the slow version. Listen, happy Tuesday. I like that. You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. I am, of course, your host, Jill Munroe. Thank you for locking in and checking us out. I hope that you have had a great day and are ready for an even better evening because, as the station said, we're going to get into some things and some topics tonight. Now, before we do, and before I give you the rundown on everything that we're going to get into tonight, I want to make sure that you are tapped in with us on social media. So, are you following us? KBLA 1580 everywhere. I need you to do that. Are you following me? At Stiletto Jill? Hit me up. Say hello. Hi. I answer DMs. Also, if you want to call in, if you want to share your opinion on any of tonight's discussion, on any of the topics that we cover, hit us up, 800-920-1580. We love to hear from you. And of course, lastly, we have a YouTube. And, you know, the chat, they always have a lot to say, lots of opinions, good conversation going on there. So lock in there, hit us up so that way you can have a visual to go along with this audio experience. And download the app if you haven't already done that so that you can take us with you and listen to us anytime you want to. Now, let me give you the rundown of what we are going to get into tonight because, you know, it's some things. We're going to discuss young Jeezy. He talks about his 8-year battle with depression and not just about the fact of him getting through it and him getting through it as, you know, a rapper, masculine. We talk about it a lot more now about dealing with depression, but there are also some other men through podcasts revealing themselves. So we want to have a conversation around Black men and getting, you know, real, having these conversations out loud. Do you think it's helping? Do you think that people are really taking in the message that this generation is laying out through their struggles? We're going to talk about that. We're also going to get into, you know, listen, there has been a shift across sports at a younger level as far as, you know, AAU, high school basketball. Remember back in the day, some of the best schools, the best programs were likely in the hood, right? Different type of athletes getting opportunities, right? But there seems to be a shift. So we're going to get into that, what we think it means for the future and what it means for our programs in the inner city. We have a guest. We'll get into that later, though. We are also going to talk about Izina Menzel. That is Taye Diggs' ex-wife. She recently was on a podcast, and she discussed how pressures from being in an interracial relationship, outside pressures, some of them media-related, caused the breakup of their marriage. Not the only thing, maybe not the main thing, but a thing. It definitely was a thing. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to get into, remember a couple of weeks ago, we discussed when Sexy Red said that she was for Donald Trump. Waka Flocka has come out, photographs standing up for Donald Trump. We've mentioned it, you know, there's a lot more happening in the Black community as far as a younger generation, although Waka's not technically younger, but, you know, of a certain demographic that are leaning into this. is it something we should be concerned about, or is it just lip service and fun? We're going to talk about that. And we're also going to get into Bow Wow. He says we need to bring back artist development. And that's something that we talk about quite frequently on this show. But are we too far gone for artist development to really make an impact at this point in the industry? We'll get into that. We're going to get into a little Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake news because why not? And we're going to talk a little bit about Kimora Lee Simmons and, of course, Kevin Porter Jr. That's just some of the headlines on deck for tonight. And we have a guest. So let me give you a little bit of background about our guest. Our guest is a member of the 83, 84, or 84, 85? 83, 84 Georgetown championship team, with John Thompson coaching, legend, icon, Pro Basketball Hall of Famer, Patrick Ewing playing, legend, icon, Pro Basketball Hall of Fame, David Wingate, and my guest running point on this team. We're going to talk to him. Also, he's worked for some major brands, and he's now involved in his own branding company. Also dealing with younger athletes and NIL. So we're going to get into some conversations around that, around college sports, around branding. We will be talking to Mr. Gene Smith when we come forward. And of course, we have our conversation starters from the evening. These are topics that I want to get into, but we may not have time to dig into the whole thing. So we're just going to give you a little taste, just give you an update. So first of all, Usher is still causing chaos. Not really, but his show is obviously a must attend. And your guy Michael Jordan was in the building for the Usher show the other evening. But he didn't get a lap dance or a serenade from Usher. Neither did his wife. He got one from Tiffany Haddish. Tiffany saw them in the building and came over and hit her body wave and body roll and sauntered up to Mrs. Jordan too. I mean, it was a lot. Listen, I didn't know Jordan liked the younger, and I know younger is relative here, but rock with me. I didn't know he was into Usher. It was an experience. It was cute. There's video of it, so make sure you check that out. Also, we're going to get into Terrell Owens. Something crazy happened to him after playing pickup basketball on Monday night in Calabasas. Really, really bizarre. We're going to get into that when we get on the other side. You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Thank you for rocking with us.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
More when we come forward.
We're celebrating 1 year of the K. From checking out the vibrant art and diverse dining in Lamert Park to cheering on your favorite team in Inglewood, you can choose your own adventure when you ride the Metro K-Line. Leave the car at home and go Metro. Visit metro.net/K-Line.
The Green Foundation, key health influencer, empowering our Black communities through action. The Green Foundation advocates for affordable health care, accessibility, and knows the importance of culturally relatable health care. Regardless of income, we believe it is a right for optimum health. The Green Foundation has been at the forefront for 25 years, dedicated solely to promoting prevention through early detection, annual screenings, and nutrition. We know you because we are you. Our hand-holding approach supports you and your family to receive your right to be treated fairly and receiving quality healthcare services. We want you and your family to know COVID-19 was devastating to our families and to our wallet. We can build back better by understanding prevention, wearing your mask, washing your hands, social distancing, and understanding the impact of long COVID. Get the care you deserve. Take advantage of your privileges. Contact us, info@thegreenfoundation.net. info@thegreenfoundation.net.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for education as a right, not a privilege. Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science is a private, non-profit, community-founded, student-centered university committed to cultivating diverse health profession leaders who are dedicated to social justice and health equity for underserved populations. CDU does this through outstanding education, clinical service, and community engagement. Recently, Charles Drew University made history by opening only the 5th medical school at an historically black university. Congratulations, South LA, and congratulations to the dean of the medical school, Dr. Deborah Prothos-Stith. CDU is now training doctors and providing $90 million in annual economic benefit to Watts and surrounding neighborhoods. To apply for medical school, get more information, or sign your child up for the Junior Doctors Saturday School program, visit cdrewu.edu. That's cdrewu.edu. At KBLA, we are dedicated to equity in education and ending healthcare apartheid, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. And, I hope that you are relaxed. You have a snack, a beverage, a libation, if that's your thing. I mean, it's only Tuesday, but, listen, get loose. We're here to settle in and get into some topics. It is Taco Tuesday, so a margarita, some tequila, I don't know. It's about that time. You could get into it. Whatever works for you. Even a smoothie. I like smoothies too. So before we came forward, I mentioned to you that Terrell Owens was playing a game of pickup basketball on Monday night. And this is according to TMZ. And at some point during the game, things got ugly. There was a verbal dispute that happened. And allegedly, this unnamed man who Terrell got into a dispute with, he felt some type of way. And he got into his car and drove and hit Terrell and hit him in the knee. So, T.O. did not require medical attention following the incident, but he did, the police did take an assault report and an investigation is underway, but no arrests have been made. Listen, what could possibly have been said in that pickup game to cause you to go get in your car and try and run over a Hall of Fame wide receiver? I know you know who he was. Does that seem smart? What's going on, Andy?
It's basketball.
It is basketball.
It's competition.
But it is, but that you want to run the man over? Run him over.
Emotional intelligence.
Lacking sorely. All right, one more thing, and then we're going to jump into Mr. Gene Smith here. So, I don't know if you're still keeping up with the Kardashians. It's no longer called that on Hulu. It's just called the Kardashians. But in a recent episode, it was revealed that Kris Jenner got Tristan Thompson his job at ESPN. She made some phone calls, got him in there the next day, and he was on air with a contract by that Monday. Can you talk about that? And you wonder why he don't want to go anyplace. I may want to roam in the free world, but come on. My mother-in-law makes one phone call. I'm in there. I'm on air. Boom. Locked in. Right? We're going to get into, maybe not tonight. It'll probably be for tomorrow. But there is another Kardashian ex. Actually, he's one of Khloe's exes now that I think about it. And he's saying that, he kind of misses that old thing just for that reason. We may get into that tonight. Probably will be on tomorrow's show. Not sure. But stick around. I'll let you know. So, as I mentioned earlier, my guest for this evening is a basketball standout, an entrepreneur, a brand arsonist, right? And, someone that is full of a great deal of knowledge. I would like to welcome Mr. Gene Smith to RSVP with Jill Munroe. Thank you for clocking in with us, Gene.
Thank you, Francine, for having me.
It's Jill, though.
Oh, Jill.
Yeah, thank you
thank
so
you, Jill,
much.
for having me. My apologies on the pseudo.
Not a problem. So, starting right off, right, how many people can say that not only did they win a national championship, but to do so with the company that you were with John Thompson coaching you. Big Pat in the middle, right? The picture that I have up on social media for you right now is Jordan guarding you, and you taking Jordan to the hole, right? What was that experience like, just as a young man coming up, and this being your college experience?
It was first of all, thank you for having me.
Of course,
Jill. This is unapologetically progressive. I'm really happy to be here. Playing for Coach Thompson in Washington D.C., where he made his bones, was an incredible experience. I was not highly recruited, so getting that offer from Georgetown and from Coach Thompson was something that was completely unexpected. Georgetown was on the come up, so the University of Maryland was the school in the DMV at the time. So it was an opportunity to be a part of, I think, the birth of something. By the time I left, I got there in 1980. By the time I left in 1984, we were considered Black America's team. So I can only speak to it as it led me on the path of being unapologetically Black.
I mean, so if you think about it as Black America's team, before the Running Rebels at UNLV, before, the Fab Five at Michigan, there was you guys, and your impact also on the fashion. It's kind of, with each generation, there's more exposure, there's more ways to be seen and be reached. But can you talk a little bit about that as an impact, as, you were from DC. So not only are you getting to play close to home, at home, but you're seeing in real time the impact that you guys, your on-court activities are having with your peers.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where, and I'm sure you can attest to this, when you're up in it, when you're a part of it, you really don't know the impact you're making. And it wasn't until I resided in New York City, the home of hip hop, right, the birth of hip hop, where everyone there let me know the impact that Georgetown had on them. And it was that intersection of music, fashion, and sports. And I think we were the precursor for that. The fact that I have Chuck D, his number in my contacts, just speaks volumes to that impact, what we meant at that time.
So I think that it's interesting. We look at how far college sports have come. And, now we're at the point we couldn't have imagined back in the day that college athletes could be paid legally. You think about all of the things as far as recruiting and the different scandals that came of that, the lost eligibility that happened to some people. What are your thoughts on where college athletics are today when you look back onto your experience?
Well, I'm extremely happy that the athlete now can be paid. I think it's a Band-Aid. I think the NCAA was forced into it. But by the same token, I think there's movement, there's evolution. And I think understanding your impact, your value as a person, as a player, is what it should be in 2023. I think it was forced, but by the same token, it's warranted. It's warranted.
Do you think that it will be better for the college game? Like, do you think that players, because they are in some cases making more money than what they will make when they go to the pros, especially on the women's side? But, for the men, do you think that it'll make the game better because some of these players will have more time to develop, maybe because they're getting paid?
I think it's challenging with the portal. A guy can play 7-8 years in college. He can go from team to team to team. But by the same token, if they're taking advantage of those opportunities, I think that's a win. I think the coaches have to redevelop, have to evolve, because to your point, if a kid's making 7 figures, 8 figures in college, in school, what's the upside for him if he hasn't been taught how to manage that once he graduates or once he leaves school? So I think it's a gift and a curse. I think what we've tried to do in terms of NIL in terms of educating. It's all about education. So we're not interested in representing these kids. We're not interested in trying to make money off them. We're interested in telling them the road is different, how to travel this road, because it's your business, you're a brand now. So how do you manage that?
So you're doing that through Brand I Am. What are the challenges in having these conversations? Because one, it was shocking to me to find out how many young athletes at this time don't watch the sport that they play, right? So not only are they not currently watching it, they're not as familiar with the history as, say, the generations before. They're not sitting there watching videotape or with the East Bay catalog trying to figure out. It's a different generation. So how challenging is it to try and help them with brand advice, considering, everything that comes to a young athlete if they're decent at this point?
It's extremely challenging. And again, the fact that we've traveled that road as student athletes, we try to present that. The fact that we've worked for major brands, so we know how that brain trust thinks. We try to present that. But more importantly, what we try to do is we try to involve the parents, and not from a standpoint of favor, but more or less telling them the pitfalls. Like, because you're being offered something now, it may not be what's best for you later. It may be short money versus long money. We try to educate, like, you come in with your bio, you come in with your portfolio, you come in with how you move, how you flow, versus when I was in the game from a professional in the 80s and the 90s working for the brands that I work for, they basically presented to you. So we're trying to educate these athletes. You come in and present to the brand. So it's a curve. A lot of times the expectation is you're coming in to laud, you're coming in to celebrate the individual, and we're coming in like, yo, we've been where you've been on some level, and we're trying to tell you, okay, there are more people trying to take than they are trying to give, and all we're trying to do is give back.
So as having these conversations, right, you look at a situation with Mikey Williams, top prospect, overtime elite, changed paths a couple of times, ended up in a situation where he is claiming that he was having stalkers or was followed home. He pulled a gun on these individuals, and he is now facing, I think, like 20 years in jail. Do you think that because, too, these kids are younger, emotional intelligence is still developing, but the money and the amount of money, even more so than we would talk about young superstars back in the day, this is, not your average player, but there's a lot more guys that are touchable but getting big dollars with the NIL. How do you kind of help to guide them or shield them against those type of things? Because they do have to be more watchful, but in the blink of an eye, it's all over.
And again, it's extremely challenging. And if it's a parent, if it's a person that's guiding them along the way, you want as many people involved in that conversation as possible to prevent these things. What's I guess unfortunate is these things were happening in the past, but they just were not happening to kids coming out of high school. They weren't happening as young as they are now, and that goes to your point about emotional development. But I think emphasizing character, emphasizing the impact that you have on people coming behind you. But it has to be real conversations, and a lot of times these conversations that they're having are transactional. So the person that you're talking to, it's their job. They're maxing out on you, versus giving you those tools that you need or giving you that education that you need that you may not want to hear. But when you have a John Morant situation, it's easily to see how you have a Mikey Williams situation. So it's one of those things where you got to have those tough conversations early, and it's as challenging with the parents as well, because the parents are there like, everybody's trying to get paid.
Right.
And it's like, okay, we can do this, but there's a method to this. There's a rhythm to this.
So what do you think, I see LeVar Ball is relaunching Triple B in some form or fashion. What were your thoughts originally on the Triple B brand and what he was trying to do? And do you think that it is salvageable at this point in time?
I love the attempt, but it's always a head scratcher for me when you see these brands start to try to move. And I'm thinking there's so many people in the industry that you can reach out and touch that have been through what you've been through. But they may not tell you exactly what you want to hear, but they're going to give you a roadmap. And when I saw Triple B first start, this West Coast base, there was a couple people that jumped into my head, and it's like, are you talking to these people to give you the roadmap? Because again, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's distribution, retail has changed now. Everything's online. There's strategies that need to be in place, and it may sound boring. It may not be as exciting, but by the same token, it's fundamentals, and yeah.
So it kind of in that, Zoe has had some knee issues. Mm-hmm. It's kind of alluded to. It might be because of that footwear. Do you think that an independent footwear brand, because we've seen like Dwayne Wade do it with his stuff in China, do you think an independent footwear brand can keep up with the technology of the bigger, brands and make an impact and make their way into the business?
I think that it's wide open. I have gentlemen that I grew up in the game with now, and they're doing things. Omar Bailey over at Factory Lab. He is he's a nuts and bolts guy. Like there's nothing, fabulous about what he does, but by the same token, from a manufacturing standpoint, from a distribution, he has the connections in China. And again, I just think you need to do your due diligence.
And you can get it done.
You can get it done.
Okay. So when we come forward, we're going to get into a conversation around young Jeezy, a little left to center, not quite there. But I think this ties into what I was saying about emotional intelligence. Just sort of, he was expressing how he went through 8 years of depression and he couldn't really speak to anyone about it. And I wonder, as more money is coming into these athletes younger and different types of pressure with social media, are you finding that the mental side, that mental IQ is suffering? Because we're seeing a lot of interesting behavior from some on social media. And then, of course, I also want to get into my nepotism question, because I think that you are a perfect person to ask that. You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, we'll have more with my guest, Gene Smith. On the other side, news and sports.
I see you on the corner, but you don't know what to say. And when I walk up to you, baby, you seem so shy. What's the problem, baby? Never had a girl like I can see right through you, and you know you wanna be mine. So get your act together, cause you're running out of time. No. It's really yes.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Former President Donald Trump is appealing a gag order that prevents him from verbally attacking others in his January 6th election interference case. The notice doesn't include legal arguments, but his legal team is expected to challenge the order on the grounds of free speech. That comes just a day after Black Judge Tanya Chutkan seemed to side with prosecutors in restricting Trump's language, prohibiting him from speech targeting expected witnesses and court personnel. Heightened security continues in New York City with tensions high because of the war between Israel and Hamas. Mayor Eric Adams says there's no dangerous threats to the city at the moment.
We're going to continue to monitor and keep an eye out, as I've always stated, for the lone wolves who are radicalized in their own homes.
The black mayor says there's no indication there's a substantial increase in attacks on Palestinians after being asked about possible hate crime incidents. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Need an accident attorney by your side? All you got to do do is call the accident guys.
Injured in a car accident or at work? Call the accident guys. Because unlike other firms, an attorney will negotiate your case, not a paralegal.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Following the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Tired of being locked out of job opportunities and shut down by systemic racism? KBLA stands with you in fighting for the rights of black workers, and we don't black down. The Los Angeles Black Workers Center is a dynamic alliance of workers, organized labor, community-based organizations, clergy, students, and scholars, working collectively to improve the position of the black working class. The LA Black Workers Center takes a comprehensive approach to addressing the black jobs crisis. Their programs promote access to quality jobs, racial equity in hiring and retention, discrimination-free job sites, and they prepare black workers for employment in high-wage, career-track jobs. The Black Workers Center supports workers who need help protecting their rights on the job. They give workers access to quality jobs and remove systemic barriers to employment. To sign up for free career readiness training, get involved in organizing around anti-discrimination, learn about union apprenticeship programs, or sign on to a trade registry, please visit www.lablackworkerscenter.org. That's lablackworkerscenter.org. Together, we can beat the black jobs crisis. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The Chase Ink Business Premier Card is made for people who make things happen, like me. I'm Sam, founder and CEO of Manifest, a product design company that makes everyday products designed smarter. I get 2.5% cash back on purchases of $5,000 or more, plus unlimited 2% cash back on all other purchases, which helps us make more smart ideas into a brilliant reality.
The Ink Business Premier Card. Learn more at chase.com/business premier. Chase for business. Make more of what's yours. Real business owner compensated for their participation. Account subject to credit approval. Restrictions and limitations apply. Cards are issued by JPMorgan Chase Bank. Any member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands for Unity and Healing. African Focus Incorporated is a nonprofit organization based in California that focuses on the growth and well-being of Africans all around the world. Their mission is to promote the well-being of people of African descent through knowledge and appreciation of one another by building a bridge of love and understanding. African Focus Incorporated strives for cultural, educational, and economic growth. They're the organization behind the African Family Induction Ceremony, African Goodwill Awards, African Focus Trailblazer Tours, African Dance Competition, and Showcase Los Angeles, Family Day, Good News Windows Microfinance Project, and more. To volunteer, travel with African Focus, or to attend one of their community building events, please call 310-676-7730. That's 310-676-7300. Or visit AfricanFocus.org. This is a diaspora-wide community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Anyone can choose to make a difference. You can help people succeed, rebuild after disasters, protect the environment, or feed the hungry. Not only will you make a difference for others, but for yourself. You can earn money for college, learn career skills, and make friendships that last a lifetime. Make a difference. Choose your future. Choose AmeriCorps.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, dope boy, this is the official hustler's anthem. You getting money? Throw it in the air.
Guess who's possessed? Still smell my clothes like Krispy Kreme. I was cooking the moles. Like horseshoes, I was tossing the moles. Time to re-up, gotta recycle the flow. I'm emotional, I hug the block. Ayy, I'm so emotional, I love my chance rules everything around me. So what's realer? About the thriller, call me a ghost face killer.
What becomes of old drug dealers? I often wonder, is there a retirement plan? They don't retire and go to Florida anymore. You know, they become authors and rappers. I don't know. That looks like the retirement plan. Maybe. I just wonder. You know, most of our rappers right now have hustler ties, right? But is it the same vibe? I don't know if it matters, but it doesn't seem like the same vibe. I know this is like off topic, but I'm just saying, since we had that Jeezy intro, we're going to talk a little bit about Jeezy. But you think about Jay, you think about, pretty much everybody, for the most part, has had, a time or two, even if it was a dime bag to their cousin in the back of their grandmama's house, right? That's what most rappers claim, right? Can you get a pass? Is there a retirement plan for rappers? Speaking of, because we talked about hip hop culture and you guys being the precursor at Georgetown to that, right? And Nas recently talked about how he wants to see older rappers rap. Do you think that with this extended sort of, I don't know what you would call it, but obviously middle age has extended out, right? We have some of our top rappers are still in their 40s and 50s selling albums, right? Still impacting fashion. Sneaker culture has grown up with them. Do you think that there is still room for that sort of hip hop icon, but hip hop to boardroom, for lack of a better term?
That's an interesting question. I do think you look at what's just taking place with Reebok. And obviously there's not a rapper involved, but for all intents and purposes, that's what AI represents.
Right.
And
he was a rapper, Jules.
And Shaq was a rapper.
Shaq is the first basketball player to go platinum as a rapper. Dame Lillard might have usurped him now, but Shaq has the most platinum plaques as a NBA player.
Yeah, but again, what I would like to see is, and this is what we talk to our youngins about from an NIL standpoint, whoever is part of your team, whoever is part of your crew, so to speak, whoever is who you rolling with, they all have a skill set. They all have a talent. And if you're
the four horsemen approach.
If you're the guy, how are you not tapping into their creativity? How are you not tapping into their skill set? Because then I'm going to question who you rolling with. Because if you're just the main guy and they're just add-ons, then that's not going to be good for you long term. So when I look at the Shaq deal and when I look at the Reebok deal with Shaq and AI, my phone was ringing. Like, Gene, are you going to be involved with that? And I was like, I'd love to, but again, it's like, who's in their circle? So I hope within their circle, because they're well-traveled, they're part of the game, they're part of the industry.
Right.
I hope within their circle, there's some of the people that I know, because I've been in this game for three decades. And there's not a person that I don't know that's talented, that's a person of color, that can raise the stake, particularly at some of these brands.
So their first signing was Angel Reese. Obviously, Shaq and Angel have that LSU connection. You know, that's where he went. He's an alumni there. We see how women's sports has taken off, especially women's college basketball. Those ratings are doing crazy. What are your thoughts, and how is that looking like for you guys as far as NIL and the young ladies? Where are they at in all of this?
Well, and I'm almost embarrassed. I'd love to have some young ladies in the roster. I'd love to be reaching out, but we're very organic about it, and that may be to our detriment, but I also think it has more substance. So anything that comes our way, we obviously have a huge network, so time and place, it's just a matter of time before I think we'll have some women on the roster. But talk about that game that they just had in the football stadium,
right.
Women's basketball game. So I think it was like 70,000 or something there. So the women's NCAA this past season was off the chain. So I definitely think that that's where the momentum is, and I think that's a point of emphasis.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into this young Jeezy. Well, he said he's not young Jeezy anymore. He's just Jeezy. I wonder, when rappers name themselves that, do they think about that? I guess that goes into that retirement plan thing. How long do you think you're setting your career up if you include young in your name? Is it mandatory that you drop it at some point like Bow Wow did? I don't know. It's just a thing. But refined Jeezy is interesting. You know, of course, you know how social media is. Some of them are saying, oh, so now that you got yourself on the right path, you want a divorce. We know that it is not just that. Shout out to Tony Yayo in the chat. The chat is always informative. They said it was 56,000 people in, I believe it's Kinnick. I might be mispronouncing that stadium for Iowa basketball. That's where Caitlin goes, right? Caitlin, yes. Yeah. So, you know, Caitlin, they're going to show up and show out for Caitlin, but we're going to show up and show out for Angel and Flage. What? Big dollars, you know. Shout out to Pretty Brown Mimi. She says she loves the WNBA. I appreciate the WNBA. And I am watching these finals. I thought the Aces would wrap it up, but I'm not in love yet.
I'd just like to make a comment on the WNBA. I listened to, I think it was Kelly Plum, who plays with
Kelsey Plum.
My apologies. And she just made what I thought was really a really profound statement, and she just said, you know, the WNBA is past the point where it's just about support, and they want you to come see them play. They want you to come see them rock out. They want you to come see the talent, and so it's like they're not looking for charity.
Right.
And I thought that was powerful, because if you look at the evolution of the WNBA and where they're at in terms of how long the league has been in play, they're past where the NBA was in its infancy. Now, granted, it's different time, the economy of scales are different, but I think the WNBA is in a good position.
And those media right deals, that's going to be coming up. That's going to be big. Okay, let's hear Jeezy.
Vulnerability is power. Mm-hmm. It's power. And I learned that I thought something was wrong with me, right? Because you thinking I come from poverty, this is how it is. I didn't understand like trauma and all these different things. So as I started to get the wordage for it and started to understand and grab tools, I started to become better. And I started on my journey, and that's why I'm expressing it and putting it in the book, because I didn't know I was depressed for like 8 years of my life straight. You know
what were you feeling during those 8 years?
I mean, like you wake up and you want to go back to sleep forever, you know? and I was leaning into my vices, you know, I was leaning, and that's what street life does to you, you know what I'm saying? And it's like once you lose 200, 300, 400 people, like gone forever, you know, you get numb, right? And I wasn't able to get in touch with my emotions, and I was wondering why, you know, thank God for my kids, but it was a time where I was just cold, you know, that's when I was young Jeezy, so, you know, I don't know if you'd have me on the show then, but it's
listen, I not only would have had you on the show, I had your music.
So we'll get into more of this on the other side, but I just think that there are more black men opening up about their vulnerabilities and how it has hampered them, or, you know, maybe held them back in some ways in their advancement and their involvement. And what I want to know is, but as we're seeing the other side of that, if we're looking at hip hop or whatever, do we think it's helping? Do we think that the younger generation are taking these examples that are being laid out for them and these vulnerability, are they taking it to heart and utilizing that information to make themselves better? We'll get into that on the other side. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Trending topics and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Join LA Civil Rights and the Reparations Advisory Commission's Black Experience Study live this fall. Learn about the city's plans for reparations and join the study in real time. For more information and to register, visit laisforeveryone.com today.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action is the youth component of the impactful CBO, known as the Community Coalition. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action has chapters at almost every South LA high school. Say Yeah, as they are popularly known, is located at 80th and Vermont, but serves young people all over South LA. Under the COCO umbrella, they train youth organizers, help underserved scholars prepare for college, and work with students to help them gain admission to top universities. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action fosters teen activism, where young people have led campaigns moving tens of millions of dollars to South LA schools and forcing officials to make AP classes available to students in under-resourced institutions. SCEL scholars have taken part in the March on Washington, been published in major news outlets, and been elected to city council. Long before she was mayor, Karen Bass started the program when she founded the Community Coalition. To donate, volunteer, or enroll a student in South Central Youth Empowered Through Action, please visit cocsouthla.org. cocsouthla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more captivating conversation on RSVP with Jill Munroe.
You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. I am joined by my guest, Gene Smith, who is an entrepreneur, former... is it no? It's not University of Georgetown. What is the official?
Georgetown
University. Okay, I'm like University of Georgetown doesn't sound right because it's not right. It's the Bulldogs.
No, it's cool in the game because I got a couple shout outs once from Stephen A. Smith. So you're in good company. Stephen A. Smith was the University of Georgetown. So,
yeah, but I know it doesn't sound right. But I just thought I'm like I don't know what I just know is Georgetown, but I don't know what the tag is on it. So we were talking about Black men and mental health and being vulnerable. And in the chat, Jerry Anderson said, men don't really share those things because women and some other men clown them and emasculate them because of it. Do you think that in this current era where, things are more open, there are more examples of it, that I feel like they are being more open, but at the same time, it doesn't seem to be taken as seriously. It seems like there's a lot of masking, like, yeah, I was messed up, I'm sad, I'm hurt, but I down that lean, I got me a chick, and we gonna hit this corner, and it's all gonna be cool. And I don't know if they're really listening and taking in some of these stories, because also this generation is so much more educated on the machine, on the marketing machine, how all of that works. Do they believe these things as they're being discussed from these people that were at one time role models?
So I was extremely fortunate. I played for a coach that was as well informed off the court as he was on the court. He set the bar extremely high. What you had to achieve in the classroom, you had to achieve in the classroom in order to play. But just in terms of the access that the generation has today, I don't know if they have the same level of access to role models or educators. You look at what Dion is doing down at the University of Colorado. I would love for my son to go to the University of Colorado, to get that mentorship, to get that preparation for life, because there is life before and after the sport you're in. But just from a mental standpoint, I think the examples are there, but I don't know if they're being presented. I don't know if they're listening, because that's a tough listen. Which again, I digress. Why we're trying to get into NIL is to deal with those type of things from our position, from our examples, from our experiences, and to be able to share that. Nothing against other people that are in the game that don't look like us, but they don't have that experience and that ability to relate to the kid. They don't know what it's like at 7 years old. When I went to get KFC for the first time, my mom was like, "Yo, I'm giving you the money to go get KFC." Before I can get home, I got 4 police cars rolling up on me. That's trauma that was never dealt with. But again, once I've had enough educators, enough people in my life, enough professionals in my life to help me process that. But to be able to speak to that, right, really speak to that, I don't know if the generation today is getting that, and getting that from someone that they respect.
I think that's a big thing. We were talking earlier about, working for brands like, Jordan or Nike. And you said that while you were in there, you felt like you weren't forward thinking in the way of your career outside of being inside of this machine. And that's something that you want to also talk with these young athletes about as they move forward and get involved. How hard is that conversation to convince someone that when all you've ever wanted is maybe to be here or to take this in, that you can't be satisfied with it, you can't become complacent?
The challenging thing is there are kids rolling up today and all they're concerned about is the bag. And I understand that. I get that. But it's like, okay, you get that bag now to prepare for later. And there's a bigger bag at the end of the equation. The conversation is tough because they're looking at, did you play in the league? Were you drafted? Yes, we were. So we can have that conversation. But so much is being thrown at them. What we try to focus on is like understanding yourself, right? Understanding what's your superpower, right? What do you gravitate towards? What do you listen to, and why do you listen to it? So we're trying to have conversations that make them think about themselves in a way that I don't think someone that's coming in trying to be transactional is doing.
So do you think that we will reach a point, right, where as we get further into NIL and it settles in, what about those mid-tiers, the ones that they're just there, they maybe can get, a local deal, a little bit of money or whatever, if they're in some place, like not in these coastal cities, but if they're in some place, Nebraska or something like that, where there's not a lot of other superstars and activity to deflect from that? What is the advice or the guidance that you would give to them vastly different from the foundational advice that you would give to someone that is, maybe someone at a UCLA or a USC or something like that?
Well, what I see happening is once we achieve a level of success, that foundation shouldn't change. And sure, it'll vary from state to state, from region to region. But I think that foundation should be the same, and it's all about knowing your self-worth, knowing that you're a brand, and coming in with your game plan, right? Like knowing what you want to get out of it, and not being a commodity, right? And dealing with yourself like business. This is a business deal, and you bring something to the table, and understanding that and being able to explain that for the long term, right? Like, there's so many ways to connect, right? And just being a leader and also bringing along people with you. Like, we want to teach that.
So lastly, right, I want to ask you. No. You had to lean back. No. Because you have a lot of things going on, so I want to make sure I tap into all of them. Because one, of course, we want to let everyone know where they can find you and tap into more things if there's, they want to get some brand advice, or there, projects that they might have for you, or you have a podcast developing. But I want to know, where do you think the future of the sports industry, as far as, apparel and these NILs, where do you think it will be 5 to 10 years from now?
That's kind of a loaded question. What I'd like to see.
Okay.
What I'd like to see is more people doing their own thing. What I'd like to see is more people taking advantage of opportunities, starting their own businesses. Understand, and NIL will kind of force you into that. But I want to digress for just 1 second with NIL. I think what's happening right now is you have 3 or 4 guys that are getting laced. What I'd like to see is maybe something in place where that trickles down. What I'd like to see is the conversation change from just one guy on the crew or 2 guys on the crew. How can we bring everybody into that?
The team.
How can everybody eat? Because, it's 5 guys on the court in hoops. Everybody has a personality. Everybody has an interest. Everybody has something that they can tie into. Some guys are more savvy with music. Some guys are more savvy with social media. Just because you're a top player doesn't mean that you know how to pop off social media wise. So where I'd like to answer your question, where I'd like to see the game be is just more people that are actually participating, making money off of themselves. Like, they're the business, they're the brand.
Okay. In 15 seconds, I know I'm jamming you up. Thoughts on Rich Paul?
He's the guy right now. I think his story is unbelievable. I think, it's he started with one guy, and he's self-taught, self-made. I think he's a shining example.
I love that. Okay, you have to tell us where we can find you, where they can tap into you to get in on all of the things that you have upcoming.
My suggestion, which is always to anybody that we're dealing with from an NIL standpoint, get a LinkedIn. Even though I sometimes feel like it gets a little bit too Facebook-ish, and we know Facebook is for people my age, I think it's necessary for you to have a LinkedIn because it's more business.
Where they can find you.
Oh, okay, I'm not really good at that, but I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay,
so
it's
Clifton Gene Smith on LinkedIn. I run a podcast, as Jill mentioned, called Hoya Locker Room. It's my give back to my alma mater. You can find me on Hoya Locker Room on IG, Hoya Locker Room on the X, formerly Twitter. Also, we have a YouTube channel. You can check us out.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Gene. Informative as always. And of course, as things develop, we have to bring you back in.
I hope so, Jill.
Absolutely
Cuba.
Amazing. Cuba.
Viva la Cuba.
Cuba. We have some things coming up for you that we will get into next time. When we come forward, of course, we're going to get into the topic of Taye Diggs' ex-wife. She said that pressure from Black female media journalists helped to usher in the end of her marriage. And, of course, there'll be more trending topics and headlines. You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
More than a hustler, I'm the definition of it. Master chef, lord of the kitchen cupboard. More than a street legend, homie, it's Hova. More than a relief pitcher, I'm the closer.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Former President Donald Trump is appealing a gag order that prevents